Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to the Spicy Brain podcast. Where we are navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
radical acceptance. High kick. I totally forgot that I'm only supposed to do the radical acceptance part.
Hey, listen, we can have all the curiosity and joy be collaborative. I love it.
I'm so out of it today.
If you are new to us, welcome. We're so glad you found us. We love having new listeners, and a lot of you guys get referred by other people. So if you like this, then you might want to refer somebody else as well. But we also just love our community so much. I know you have some new people joining the community this week, and I don't mean community as in something that's cult-like, but it's more just people
you must enjoy the ADHD. These are not the ADHD drones you are looking for.
Exactly. So we really focus on everything sort of what we call neurospicy, but right now we're really focusing on ADHD. We've been doing a couple books, right? And that we've been reviewing and talking through to try to understand your ADHD better. And also in the process, my neurospicy brain, which is a different kind of spice.
Yeah, I mean, you're just spicy adjacent. What is spicy adjacent? You're like salt.
Oh.
Because here's the thing.
I'm salty, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, I'm thinking when it comes to cooking, salt makes everything better. Makes everything taste better. It's an integral part of cooking, and if you don't have enough salt, it's not basic, but it's the you're not basic. This is I'm digging myself into a giant hole. No, you are essential.
Go on.
Go on. Okay, it's gonna sound terrible, but you are one of the core tenets of a meal. So
and it's any spice. You have too much of any spice or flavoring, it's going to be a little too much, right?
Yes, so, but the thing is that salt goes with everything, whereas if you try to put curry into a breakfast egg, it doesn't probably taste what you want it to taste like. Right. I say that lovingly to my husband,
who loves curry and everything.
I love you so much, baby.
So those of you guys who are returning, we just appreciate you passing this along to people, because we do hear actually from a lot of people that it's helpful and that they feel a little bit maybe less alone sometimes, and hearing how you describe your ADHD, Megan. So thank you for your vulnerability as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for your doing the work. Doing the load of the hard stuff.
The stuff I like because I'm a super nerd.
Yeah.
We're currently working on a book called Your Brain Is Not Broken, and we have been on this book now for a while.
I mean,
it makes me want to say while, with the WH, a while.
It's so old that we've gone back in time to received pronunciation. It's a while.
Yes. It's a while.
Okay, I'm very much impressed with this book.
And you've said it, right? It's very meaty.
Oh, yeah.
And very mighty.
Mighty, yes.
Yeah, and this is Your Brain Is Not Broken by
Tamara Rosier, PhD.
Yeah.
You can tell that Tamara is definitely ADHD because it's so meaty. And I know for me, if you listen to me and I just keep talking, I'm I just can't stop. Yeah. So
well, you are on an ocean walk. All of us can be jealous who are living in hot places right now, because you're in a beautiful area in Monterey, California. Lucky you. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing more green tasks. So we did a whole podcast, the colors that she does, that she references, and there's red and yellow and green and blue. And
that's episode 69.
Okay. And these are on a spectrum. So it's the idea that she said that people with ADHD love fun things. Mm-hmm. Mostly they're why would you do them if they're not fun?
Yeah.
And people without ADHD are that's actually not one of my criteria always. And then you're
right.
What?
We had this whole conversation you do it for not fun? What are you talking about? I don't understand, Michelle.
So the fun side are the green and the blue tasks. But then there's also these things that are more high emotions, right? So the red is a high emotion and the green is high emotion, but they're emotions that maybe are less healthy in the red. less healthy for our bodies, less healthy for our limbic system. So it's like red is like urgent, got to get done. So you're highly motivated, especially if you're ADHD, but it may not be the best for you long term to be in that state, that fight or flight state. And then the green on the right hand side are like we call them now lovingly the Genza tasks, right? Like the tasks that are the people in our lives and the puppies and the
life
affirming animals and the life affirming grounding. And those are also ones that give us energy and that might have high emotion with it, but like positive emotions that like leave us feeling better in the end.
And they're really hard to start sometimes. That's the challenge with the green
people
ones.
with ADHD especially. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So you were like on one of your green tasks, which is to take your puppies to the ocean, right? You love walking on the beach, and that always like regrounds you. So you were kind of having a moment though, and you like messaged me, you know, it's 105 and like 90% humidity where I was at that moment. And you're like, send me a picture of the ocean. And I was so happy because like a video.
Oh.
And it's like a little video of the ocean and you're like, look where I am. And I was like simultaneously like loving it because it was like, it actually kind of refreshed me just like watching it. And also I kind of was like older sister, like you suck. You know what I mean? It was both. It was both.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you're just joining us, we're sisters, by the way. So you'll kind of figure that out. I probably didn't need to even say it, but you know, there we go.
I know we sound the same. So everyone's always like, you guys are
who's who?
Who's who? Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to know. You just need to listen. It's all good.
Just listen.
Right?
It's fine. You'll figure it
out. But anyway,
eventually.
You're on the beach, you're with your pups, and you had kind of like a revelation. I wanted you to tell us what it was.
Well,
or a thought you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Well, I was re-listening to episode 69, 69 people. And it's all about
so mature.
I know. I'm so awesome. What can I say? So I was re-listening to it because I'm in a mastermind group. And so there's two people who are both ADHD as well. And so we've been talking about tasks and they're like, oh, this whole coloring system sounds really fascinating. Like, and I said, well, let me send you the podcast. So I had to find the one because it's hard for me to remember which one is which. So I was listening to it to make sure that it was the one I wanted. And then I started listening and I was just like, kept listening. Cause I'm like, oh, well, I guess we're kind of interested. And like, it's fun to, okay. So I, as I'm listening to it though, I'm listening to myself, not like I'm reliving the conversation that we had clearly. But what I realized in the moment was that like when you were telling me about it for the very first time, you're telling me all the red, the green, I'm looking at at the image and, you know, I'm reading it. And while I might have sounded like I knew what I was talking about, I had no idea what I was talking about. Like wasn't
Were you
sticking.
Masking or was it just that it didn't stick long
It just
term?
didn't stick. It didn't stick long term.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it was. And
okay.
So it all made sense, but then, but I still like the whole coloring and like the colors and it just didn't, it intellectually made sense, but it didn't physically land in my body or in my brain. Meaning I just like, it wasn't something where, you know, like the first time I say flap, which is I'm changing the subject, right? You know, you kind of it's not like inherent yet in your body and or in my body.
That's what's the meaning of the word or the meaning of the phrase.
Yeah, like
whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like I could intellectualize it and be like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, okay, but like, can I implement it into my life and like really process it?
Right.
And what I realized like I wanted to say is that if you are somebody who listens to these podcasts and you might have to listen to one multiple times because guys, episode 69, I recorded it. I then listened to it when I edited it and then I listened to it again. And I just now kind of am starting to get, and we've also talked about these colors for like, let's see, it's 69 episode. We're on 78, I think, like almost 10 episodes of this. So
10 weeks.
10 weeks. It's taken 10 weeks for me to really process and delve into this. So I just wanted to say this to anybody who's listening who's also ADHD, that it's okay if it doesn't resonate right away. And like, you might have to listen multiple times, or, you know, or like talk to us and like, we'll make another episode and I'll explain it 20 different ways to see if something finally resonates. Because I just know, like, I always listen to these podcasts and I'm like trying to do better and I'm trying to like self-improve. And I feel like an idiot because it doesn't land in me right away.
Yeah.
And I just want to like say it's okay.
I completely agree with that. And I think what's interesting is, you know, you were telling me the other day, similarly, like part of it's your learning style, right? And so you're not really an auditory learner, but you're an auditory processor. So like you have to talk about it a lot before it gets in there. But also for me, like I am auditory. I do learn auditorily. And so you were telling me like I needed to, or why don't I just get like the notes from online? Somebody else has already done them. Like I don't need to make notes because I handwrite notes on every episode. And so this particular book, I literally have been scripting. I feel like I rewrote Tamara's book in handwritten form, sadly, but partly because it was just so meaty that I was trying to process it. And then when we talk about it, you can hear in a couple of the episodes where I'm kind of all over the place a little bit too, because I'm not haven't completely internalized it. And then I feel like what happened over time is things would happen the last 10 weeks and we started to kind of categorize things that were happening. We're like, is this a green task? Is this a blue task? Like, is this something that I consider? Because she says in the book, like, everyone's different too. So it's like you kind of came up with like a green task as an example that kind of anchors you with what green means is your friend Jenza and like seeing her, right?
Yeah.
And that's like super, you're like, oh, and now you know what that feels like when you see her. And now you've like associated that with this color. And I think the ocean might be in that category, but we were talking about the Monterey Bay Aquarium and we're like, is that a green task or not? Like when you volunteer there, is it? And I think you were sort of still on the fence about that a little bit for a while. I don't know if you've come to some conclusion with it, but I thought, you know, like, okay, if I need to pepper in green tasks throughout my, you know, week, because I know it helps my limbic system, and I know it helps me feel better, I gotta know what those are.
Yeah, and I feel like these tasks, like I feel like there's not enough colors.
Yeah,
honestly, because like
you want like turquoise or something.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about like teal or turquoise. Yeah, because I feel like there's this like for me, the aquarium is life affirming, but it also is so physically taxing. And because of having long COVID, it's just, you know, or if you have like some sort of a chronic issue, like it like there's something, it's like I need to like know that, okay, okay, let me, okay.
Yeah.
So I was going originally every Friday. And then I got my job and I was like, I have to switch to Sundays. And so then for Sundays, they do every other Sunday. And I think it's to help people who are working so they're not having to like give up every one of their weekends.
Yeah.
And going twice a month is actually so much better for me than going 4 times a month. Because it takes me, like, you're on your feet the entire time. And, you know, I'm still kind of getting back my lungs. I'm still getting back my feet and all of these different things. And it's like a 4-hour, and then the Sunday ones are like 5.5 hours of just
that's
like
a commitment too. Yeah,
it is. And so for me, I just like, it just wrecks me emotionally and physically. But it's still life affirming. Like I really do enjoy nerding out, and I like love, I have to kind of pinch myself because I get to walk into the Monterey Bay Aquarium twice a month and not have to pay to go in. And then I also get like an hour each time of continued learning and spending time and like, you know, learning about these things. And then honestly, like the interactions with the guests are some of the most fantastic things. Like I just, you know, I love being able to talk to them and excite them. Like I was talking to a 10-year-old about kale. Like not kale, kelp.
Kelp. I was like, kale. I was like, okay. Kale. There's a whole nutrition component I had no idea about.
But like I asked this 10-year-old, I'm like, so what was your favorite part of the whole, the museum? And he just was like thinking about it for a second. He was super shy. And then he just was like, the kelp. And I'm like, I've never heard a 10-year-old say kelp before. They're always like, there's always some animal. And
right.
so, we were going through all the different types of kelp he saw. And I was like, well, have you seen the bullwhip kelp? And he's like, no. And so I took him back over to the kelp touch pool. And I showed him this like giant bulbous of a piece of, kelp that has like all these fronds off of it. So it looks like a doll, like with hair. And actually the indigenous people here would make them, turn them into dolls. And so I'm showing this to him and I hand this like mammoth thing to him and his eyes just light up and he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I watch his parents whose eyes just light up because somebody took a second to notice him. And as I'm leaving them, the father was just like, thank you so much. And it's like those little moments are just life affirming.
Yeah.
But then I get done and I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. And so it's like, there's a teal element, I think.
Yeah.
Wait,
where there's like a little bit of yellow or red in
red.
No, maybe a little
Which
red
one
in
is
it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of red in it.
Yeah.
I don't
kind of becomes brown. Green and red would make brown. There's a little brown.
No. There's a little brown in there.
Here's a forest green.
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of love it though, because you were saying this with the chapter we're working on now, which is this idea of boundaries. And she really uses a house analogy and a yard analogy and a fence analogy to kind of talk about boundaries. And the other week you were kind of like, this doesn't make sense to me yet, right? And you were saying it, I'm not quite there with this yet. And I think it's so hard sometimes to take other people's analogies and figure out how they work, but you can maybe make them your own, like, having a little forest green moment in between the red and the green or something, right?
No,
like
it's
where you're
true,
like, I gotta adjust it.
When I think about like my Genza task, my green Genza task, it's like bright green. It's like this bright neon green. And then when I think about, it's almost like saturation, right? So then there's like these other green tasks that are not as bright, but they're still green. So, it's like, there's just some saturation going on.
I think that's interesting. We're going to have to like kind of figure out a visual for that, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things we were talking about last week was physical boundaries. And I had a couple people message me privately to tell me their physical boundaries that they were going to try to do. And so I won't name names or anybody, but, not outing anybody on their boundaries. But one person told me that they were going to try to not have their phone on for an hour before they go to bed. And that was going to be their physical boundary to help their health, right? Their process. Yeah. And then I had another person reach out because we sort of asked, like, do you have any physical boundaries that might help you to kind of keep not your physical house, but like your mental, emotional house clean, right? I think is her point of this. And another person said that they were going to not agree to do something until they had waited 24 hours. So like if somebody was going to ask them day of, they were just going to say they weren't available. And they said that as long as they had 24 hours notice, they would get back to them within 24 hours. Like, can I tell you tomorrow? And I was like, that's a cool boundary. So I didn't know, I mean, you edited the podcast, but I don't know if you did you decide to try to reinforce any boundaries that you had been putting in place, or could we decide? I'll tell you a boundary
Well, no, wait. First, I want to first acknowledge the two people that you brought up, because I am like loving it and I'm so excited for them. And whoever is the one with the phone boundary, like, oh, bless you. I mean, good luck. And please don't beat yourself up if you fall into the trap, because I was thinking about that last night. I was like, man, I've been working on my children's book, my little Rosie book. And I've been like just getting really into like all the illustrations. And so like, I'm literally going to bed with my iPad again. And so I have to I'm thinking like, okay, I have to figure out how to not do that, And so anybody whoever's trying to, not have their phone, good for you. And don't beat yourself up. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up, please.
We won't text you to see how it went.
Yeah.
Night,
are you on your phone? Hey. But then the
checking.
other one about the 24 hours, actually what came into my mind was that we've talked about how the impulsivity of ADHD, and it reminded me of like, I would sometimes like buy or I'd like put something in Amazon, right? To like, cause I know I need to get it. And so what I've gotten in the habit of doing is just like putting it in and leaving it in my cart. And if I don't remember it after 24 hours, then I just delete it.
Oh, that's a good one too. I love that.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it reminded me of. It's like this boundary of, whatever your impulsivity. So I don't know. I'm not going to say that you're having an impulsivity of, saying yes to people, but that idea that like, you might just say yes you just always say yes. Like,
it's like habit, or it could be like,
that's the word.
They were talking also about this idea that people with ADHD tend to have the rejection. What was it called? The
rejection sensitivity. RSD.
Yeah.
disorder?
Like you're afraid to say no to people, maybe because you're worried that,
they'll never ask again.
Rejection sensitivity dysphoria. You don't want to set boundaries because you're deeply afraid of being rejected. Like, and I think that's for real true. I remember that, like you feel like that, right? Oftentimes, like as a teenager, anyone can remember like not want, maybe that feeling, but that because also like you are rejected regularly as a kid with ADHD, it's got to be like, I mean, I don't know if it's a dysphoria as it's like, that could really happen. Like, I mean, right?
Well, and if we go back
it does dysphoria in the sense of like, you think it's always going to happen and you have no chance with anybody to be your friend. But I mean, I think that it comes from a place of real trauma for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it is very real. And it skews your idea of what relationships are. And what is interesting about the whole RSD is that I completely understand that, because like I even just today, so one of the things like with this, forest green thing that I did last week, my stepdaughter just left, and then there was we did a bunch of things right before she left. And then I met with Jenza and I like had all these appointments, and then went and did the aquarium, and like I was just exhausted by last Sunday. And so this Sunday, I usually see Sheldon, which if anyone remembers Sheldon from one of the episodes. But so
he's teaching you how to cook, right?
Teaching me how to cook. Yeah. And
he's
so
amazing.
I messaged him to say like, hey, I can't make it this week because I need to not do anything this week. It's like taxing. And I had this ping in my head of like, oh, you can't tell him that, because then like you're the one who's always having issues with like either time or whatever, and then he's not going to want to work with you again. Like I actually had that in my head.
Interesting.
And as
what did he actually say?
Oh, he hasn't. I just did it before we went on our podcast, or before we started podcasting. But like I had that concern, and I had to like reject it and just say no. I mean, if for some reason me having to cancel is the reason he doesn't want to work with me anymore, then that's okay. I don't need to be around a person like that. I mean, he's not going to. But
no. And I shouldn't have asked on air, like, what did he say? Because that's not really, it's more me being curious. But
I don't know what I don't know
brings
yet.
us exactly into, this chapter I have been doing for like 4 weeks. Okay,
so you have. You're like, I just got through 4 minutes of the audio podcast. I'm like, the audio book, and you're like,
well, because I have to keep like really thinking about it, So the idea of this is, and we really didn't talk about this last time, so I want to. We're still sort of in the house part of this chapter. I got to the yard part. I haven't even gotten to the fence part. Okay, so I sent this to you, but the house part is really last week was like about physical boundaries. And I think these boundaries are connected to kind of our health, our mental health, in the sense of how she's saying it. And that having those physical boundaries, like for example, not being on your phone, probably will help you sleep better, which means that you're going to have more access to be the best version of yourself the next day, right?
Yeah.
Like you have more energy. So the emotional boundaries, though, is the next piece of this. And I think what's interesting is that really relates to the house and the yard analogy. So I think this actually ties into what you were just saying. Like, if a person isn't going to be okay with your boundary of needing a weekend off, then you're right. That's not a person you need. And the thing is where is that person? Do they get to come into your house, or do they only get to come into your yard? And in general, like, do people have access to your house, your emotional inner self? Are they that close to you, and is it that intimate of a connection, or are they yard people? And so I just thought we could talk about that a little bit. Because a lot of the emotional work you have to do on yourself, I feel like, is something that's within this podcast, but also we have to be really careful because we're not professionals.
Right.
And we don't want to suggest something to somebody, that they're thinking about the internal, like getting into the baggage of your recesses of your mind, all of that. I worry about that a little bit. But this idea of like, who do you let in to see your baggage? Who do you let in to see your messy house? And who do you not? I think is a really worthwhile conversation.
My initial thought about this is that as a kid, I had no boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, I let everybody into my emotional home. Like, you know how they say you wear your heart on your sleeve?
Yep.
I feel like that was me. And I just was like so open and like, because I think that's one of the reasons why now when we're on this podcast, like, I just don't care if people see all of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Because it, like, okay, like, if I finally have enough confidence in myself, which I didn't have for many, many decades. I finally have enough confidence to say, if you're going to judge me, then like, sorry, like that's you. That's not me.
Right.
That's a you issue. So I wonder though, like,
but this is sort of, podcasts are kind of yard-like in nature. Meaning, like, I'm going to let you see this, but I have or maybe it's a fence, actually, because it's like, you don't get to, like, come in to my actual everyday, right? I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff if you want to, like, listen and be there, but, like, I'm not necessarily, I guess maybe social media might be that, where people are kind of overstepping a boundary that you might have, and that's why social media can be hard. But you're like letting people see the whole house, right? But it's kind of like one of those Zillows where you're like looking through the pictures. You know what I mean? But it's not like I'm physically letting them into my life necessarily.
I see what you're saying. So like I'm like opening the curtains.
Yeah.
So you can like see in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm open to maybe you're coming over, right?
Yeah.
But so I want to talk about this, but that's interesting. So I don't know, that's kind of meta actually, but we're like talking podcast about a podcast, but in the yard, she says people who are in your yard, not your house, right? Not your innermost sanctum, but your yard, are the people that are special friends, loved ones that you want them to, like, you would bring them over to grill or to a party in your yard, but you're not getting, like, they're not quite intimate enough to allow you into your house. So to me, like, into the house would be, I'm having a really hard day and I'm needing support. Like, not everybody would be that person. You know what I mean? Like, knowing the business of my family necessarily, or like, I don't know. To me, there's sort of like maybe a distinction there.
No, I know what you're saying. Like, it's the societal house. I realize like I blur the lines a lot because I'm a little oversharer. I definitely overshare.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes and no, right? Like,
that's true.
It's like sometimes you don't share at all and you ghost me. So it's,
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing is, like, I don't know. Yeah. What would I think? I got just super distracted because I was looking at a picture, and I've been looking at this painting that you did. It was your very first painting. And And I'm looking at it and it's reminding me of that safety to like give somebody this very, like I remember you didn't like the painting, but I loved it because it was so interesting and chaotic and emotional. And like, I could just see like I can see it within the colors, like you're kind of fighting the love and the like hate of it all. And like, it's so, and it's like not fully finished, which it's like, it's so fascinating. And I realized like, I'm a person that you would give that painting to.
Right.
Like you wouldn't necessarily give that painting to like anybody.
Right.
And like if I'm thinking about like what's the most inner sanctum thing for me, like who am I going to call when I first like think about what we talked about, you know, like when I was like, oh, hey, I want to talk this through with you. So like, you're the first person I would think to call. You,
right.
Mom, Brian, sometimes Daisy.
Yeah.
Never Daisy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
absolutely.
Like, and like,
there's sort of like that group that's you've kind of also, I think, worked hard to cultivate too.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what she says in this chapter is like, be really gentle with yourself while you're figuring this out. While you're figuring out like who gets to be in your house versus who gets to be in your yard. Because it's actually very difficult, especially if you grew up in an ADHD house where there were no boundaries, which we definitely, that was part of what happened. And then, or not none, but you know, not, we didn't necessarily learn to make our own the way we needed them. That's how I would put it, right? There's boundaries, right? Certain boundaries, but like there was also a lot of fluidity with that and a lot of our own situation of like, I shouldn't say ours, but from my perspective, there was a lot of that happening in the adults that we had in our lives that they weren't clear on their own boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And so when adults are in your life that aren't clear on boundaries, then it's difficult to figure out how to make them for yourself. But what's interesting to me is who you let in. She goes in great details. I want you to open up the page 14 of my notes, people, handwritten. Thank you very much. But it's the 14th page that we're on. I feel like I'm trying to get a gold star. I'm not sure why. I probably need to think about that a little bit.
Well, you deserve a gold star. Yeah, actually,
Yay.
that was interesting because like a while, like there was one of them, I was like last time or the one before, you were
I
like,
didn't want to give you my notes.
You're like,
no, I know.
Yeah, no. You were saying like, I don't need a gold star. And I was like, yes, you do. You do need a gold star. You deserve gold stars. You're awesome.
That's
you
right.
get a gold star for your writing and for your
yay.
Yard.
Yay.
Yard.
Like, yay. I don't know. I was trying to read and respond to you at the same time, and then it just came out super awkward. Like,
yay.
Yeah, sure.
I get a gold. Hold on. Let me give you a gold star. I'm going to lick it. Gold star.
Oh my gosh. You need a sound for that. Okay.
Ding.
So the thing is that the people who are allowed in your yard, and I sort of love this description, right? Because it doesn't mean that those people don't mean as much to you. It's just that there's sort of this boundary that you've got, right? And like, that's okay to have those boundaries. But there are people who are going to trust and respect and appreciate this like yard you're creating because you're making a cool space for them to come over and have and hang out. And I was thinking like, yeah, when I'm mentally healthy, I'm a cool person to hang out with. Like, that's a good thing, right? You know, it's true.
I'm sorry. It's like when I'm mentally healthy, I'm a cool person to hang out. I've just never heard anybody say it like that. You know, when I'm mentally healthy.
But I know when I'm not too now, which I didn't, you know, like I know when I'm like, I'm stressed out or I'm like, and I don't even mean to say like, I'm diseased. I just mean to say like I'm not taking care.
You're not like a leper or anything.
Yeah, no, just I'm not taking care of myself, and so I'm tired and I'm at my sort of like emotional limit. So anyway, so somebody who's gonna like love that you've created this space. That's the first thing. And she said, that they know like that they can, when they're asked, they're gonna give you opinions. And I thought it was interesting. She said, like, opinions about plantings and maintenance or colorful gnomes you've placed around the yard. And I was laughing so hard because I was like, okay, Megan's going to just fixate on colorful gnomes and then I'm not going to get her back. So
I know, because because you gave me a gnome.
Yeah.
You gave me a garden gnome that was riding a pug. So it's your own fault that you've made me go down. You and Mike got that from me. I went to San Diego one time. It is hilarious.
So I think that this is like the same thing as saying they'll give you opinions about maybe like other people that you're bringing into the yard if you ask, right? Or they might give you opinions about, you know, like, hey, maybe you need to do the cooking with Sheldon once a month and ask if that's possible, you know, whatever it is, right? Like they'll give you opinions if asked, but they'll also like understand that that's not, they don't like whatever the opinion they gave you isn't anything they're going to hold on to. It's your decision in the end. So they're not going to be upset with you if you don't take their advice.
Yeah. It's like unsolicited advice almost, like, or unsolicited opinions. Like they're like, okay, cool. You know, you tell me to F off. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. And so like one of the bullets says like that I wrote down, it's like they understand they are only guests. I was like, that's right. Like that's a nice thing when somebody realizes they're a guest in your home or a guest in your yard and then they're going to leave when appropriate times. Not thinking of anybody specific, but I'm just saying. So
this is like interesting because I think that if we're going at it from this angle, family blurs the lines. Like the idea of family is really, you would think that family is like, oh, we're family, so it's everyone's out invited in the house. But the real family, you know, it's like you may not even, like when we say you can create your own family.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like just because we're related doesn't mean that you're going to build trust with me or be unsolicited, right? Like I think people think like when you're family, it's like, oh, I have the ability to like tell you what to do.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And she actually brought up that example that one of the clients she had really had been working hard on cultivating her yard space. And the two elements she said that are kind of the major elements, and they're sort of like in boxes on that page I sent you, but it's your space that like serves you best, your emotional and mental and physical health and all of that, like that ability for you to grow. So that could be like your physical actual house, but it could also be sort of your mental state and like the people you're inviting into your life can affect that, right? And the types of jobs we have can affect that, and all of that is part of it. But that it's also what or who is allowed in there. And her example was that this woman who had figured out like a lot of her friends who fit, she realized her mother wasn't somebody who could be in her yard because her mom was not respectful to her. And I was like, so I think it goes exactly what you're saying. Like, you have to be able to trust that they're going to care for you, that they want to support you, and that they have your best interest at heart, is how she put it. And I thought that was a really great way to think of it. Like, our yard space needs to be for joy, for rest, for recreation, she says. And, and when necessary, that hard work of pulling weeds and all of that kind of thing. But that the people we have to have in our yard, we have to be able to trust that they're going to care for you, that they're going to want to support you in your own growth, and that they have your best interest at heart. And that stinks when it's your family isn't that. That is so hard. It's really hard when that isn't true.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that my brain is hurting a little bit right now. So I'm going to be curious about it because what's coming up for me is that I love this idea that they're saying that these people understand you, they understand they're only guests, and that, you know, they're offering opinions and suggestions, but they know it's your choice, and that they're respectful. And all of those things are qualities that I would want in a person who comes into my home. So what I think
as well. Yeah.
So I think the brain pain at the moment that I'm having is what differentiates the person who comes into the yard versus the person who comes into my home?
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference? Because to me, everything you're saying, like I'm trying to think about people in my life, and it's like, you know, is them coming into my home like the ones where like it's just you build time with that person, and then the more time and the more trust that you have with them, the more you're allowing them like further and further into your space. Is it time? Is it a specific action? Like, I don't know. Time is sort of what...
Okay, this is fascinating. So I read this book before I went to Japan, and it was all about Japanese business, for Japanese business people, like learning how
different book.
A totally different book.
Okay.
I was reading it years back when we went to Japan, and it was talking about if you were a business person, how you would deal with Japanese people, right? Like how are they different culturally than us? And so they had these circles. So if you imagine a circle within a circle, it was like their yard is the smallest, like their house, right? Is like they don't let anybody into their house. Nobody comes into their house at all, ever. Right. And so it's only family or only like the closest people. Whereas like Americans, but once you're in
for life.
You know them completely. Like they let you see everything. Like you can get into their pantry. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to, every nook and cranny, you're going to know about their house. Whereas Americans tend to be people who let everybody in the house, but there's this center core that no one knows. It's hidden from everybody a lot, right? It tends to be culturally kind of like we let a lot of people into our houses. And when you think about it, I think you're right. Like maybe there's this idea of who are you going to let into your bedroom? Maybe that's a better analogy for you. I don't know. But it's interesting. I mean, there's got to be some kind of intimate internal space that's yours and yours alone. And only a few people really get to see it, I think, is her idea that that's helpful potentially, even if you don't do it currently.
And I'm noticing that my brain is not quite as pained right now. So I think it's good that we're talking about this. It seems like the property, right? Your property lines, like any part of your property is like, if anyone even steps foot onto it, they should, at the very least, they are trustworthy. They, will give you an opinion, but they know that it's your decision. Like, you don't let anybody in that doesn't do those. There's like the bare minimum, the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So then now, what makes you different from Jenza or LaToya or, these people that I'm meeting that are like really great? Like, is it just like time? Is it like, okay, so I think about I think that Jenza is like on the threshold right now of my home.
It's so sad because she's gonna hear this and she's like, okay, there's a test, Jenza.
Sorry, Jenza. No, there's not.
There's no test. but okay, but let me just tell you this.
What?
As we're saying this.
Yeah.
Healthy people, a healthy yard person, she says, may ask questions for clarification, but they accept your boundaries and they do it without feeling affronted or upset about it. Unhealthy people oftentimes will mock your boundaries and make you feel stupid for having said them.
Yeah,
so
those people
I think
don't even get to come near my property.
Somebody who she time and time again is showing you that she's somebody who will accept your boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. And as you know that and feel that and trust that, but that's normal for that to take time. It should take time.
And will tell me her boundaries.
Yes.
But see, this is why. Okay,
but it should take time. I mean, we do not take enough time to get to know people, right?
Yes.
Sometimes.
But this is also what I'm trying to get at, right? Like, that's why it's like, in the past, I would have been like someone like Jenza. I would have been like, you're in the house. Like, you're my best friend. It's all in. Like, it's all or nothing. Because that was sort of the mentality I had of like, you just got to find somebody and then you glom onto them. And then like, no wonder I didn't have friends. Because like I was way too intense and just like super needy. And the fact that like I don't feel afraid to talk about, let's say, Jenza, and I know she's going to be listening to this. Hi, hope you're having fun on your run. But like the fact that like I know that like I can say this and it's not going to freak her out.
Right.
Says something. But I wouldn't have talked about this prior to us meeting. Like, let's say, you know, we went to our first like meetup, which was at a park with her kiddos. And like, I wouldn't have been talking about this at that point. Like and I wasn't saying, so I guess the thing is like, bringing it back to what I'm trying to say, I think what I'm getting at is like, the more experiences that I have with somebody and the more boundaries that they set and that I set and that we are mutually respecting each other's boundaries. It's not just a selfish, like, these are just my boundaries and you have to deal with them. It's also me listening to her and checking in with her. And the more that we do that, it's like like you're talking about with the Japanese culture, like the closer and closer you get to the house. Mm-hmm. And like, I think the goal would be like, if you have a friend like that you love, like you would hope that like at some point you could wrap them into that home. But like you do have to vet the person on some level, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's exactly right what you're saying. And I think she does say that in her book.
Cause Jenza could be like, oh my God, Megan, this is too weird. Like, I'm getting freaked out, which is totally fair. And like, it's like, cause I am an oversharer. So like, yeah, you're right. Like it could be both ways,
but I don't think it's a time thing. I think there's some people who you just like once you are better at having some boundaries, right? Like I wasn't good at picking this ever. Like I would tell, my friends, I'm like, okay, if I ever date again, right? Since I'm divorced, I'm like, if I ever date again, I'm going to vet this person through all of you because I have no spidey senses, obviously, for myself. Not that the other person or the people I've been with are horrible people. It just wasn't right for me. And I didn't pick up on that. But I think that's because that's like work I had to do on myself. And I think that's part of what she says sort of in the your own home piece. And this is the part I didn't focus on a lot on this podcast because I really do think it's something, if you want to focus on this, it's probably a good idea to at least consider talking to somebody who has some training around this. But she's like, you need to be making sure that you're not blaming others. You're taking responsibility for your own actions. You know yourself. You know your own baggage. You know where all the skeletons are buried. All of that. Like in order to have an understanding of who can be in your yard and who can't, you need to know you. And you need to know your own boundaries around things and be thinking about those things, I think. And I know you've spent a lot of time, whether we would call it, that always, I think a huge piece of what I've learned, what you've learned is how to create boundaries, how to be okay with them. But we had help doing it. And we spent a lot of years practicing this. So this is like sort of like you started the podcast. This isn't something like, oh, you should be perfect at this right away. You're going to mess up, but also it's okay to listen to yourself. And if you're saying you need something and somebody's laughing at you or making you feel that you don't need that, or, I don't know, I guess all the kids use gaslighting now. Like somebody's gaslighting you, like trying to like make you feel like it's not real or it's not important. That's not probably somebody you want in your yard, let alone your house. Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. Cause like it's reminding me of the very first time I met Brian. And he made some jokey comment, kind of like a sarcastic comment. And at the time I was like, I don't like that. Like, I don't like, I'm not into sarcastic comments and I don't want to do that. And he respected it and like has not done it ever since. And
That's
then like,
amazing.
Yeah. And like, I realized that like, that's one of the things that I, like with any of the nephews or with, stepdaughter or anybody, like I try to not do this like sarcastic thing. And so it's fascinating if I ever do, I get pushback from them and they're like, Rosie, that's not what we do. It's like, that's not what we do. And it's like, oh, or like you had to remind me that one time.
Yeah.
Of like, Megan, you don't need to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's a defense mechanism. Okay. So I don't know why I was saying this.
Well, because I think it goes to the idea of boundaries, that you set one clearly and sort of her big thing at the end of this, which I thought was interesting, was that, sometimes we might kick people out of our yards too quickly.
Yeah.
Because we're scared of the confrontation. And it doesn't, I don't even think it has to be thought of as confrontation, but we're scared to say something about it. And she's like, the first thing you need to do is talk about what happened. Talk about the infraction. So like you said, you did with Brian, like her suggestion is saying things like, I didn't feel comfortable when you said this or did that.
Yeah.
And then I would rather you didn't talk about that with other people because that was meant to be between us or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Or here's what I thought was going to happen. And this is what did happen. Here's kind of what I'd like to have happen in the future. And I think her thought was, at the same time, like, try that. If you try that with somebody and they are going to respect, they might ask questions, but they're going to respect your boundary with it, then maybe they're a good yard person to start with.
Yeah.
And I liked that as a suggestion, because it's like this whole thing about boundaries and like I'm floating around, how do I figure out who gets to be in the yard, who doesn't? That can be happening if you kind of experiment with it and try to make sure that you're telling people when they've overstepped a boundary, and you need to kind of nip it in the bud right away, like you did with Brian. Sounds like.
Yeah. And so, we talk about strategies if we have them. And this is actually
which we don't always have.
Which we don't always have them. We're like, sorry, we got nothing. We don't know nothing yet. I can barely keep focused on like what we're talking about, let
alone a strategy. Oh my God.
There's like something weird happening with me, like where my eyes just like they're like, I don't know. What am I doing, Michelle? Like they're just like
going back and forth like an owl clock,
yeah.
Like
and like I'm feeling just like my eyes are dry and I'm like trying, it's hard to focus. It's so weird. So I apologize, you guys. You're listening to ADHD in real time. But with the boundary, one of the things that like my therapist had me learn was this. It's a DBT skill. It's called Dear Man, DEARMAN. And this one really helped me because I've had to have anytime I have to have like a really hard conversation with like Brian or with anybody else, I use the DEAR part of it. So the first one is to describe. D is describe. You describe the current situation and you stick to just the facts. So like you tell the person like exactly what you're reacting to. So like
police report.
Yeah, like this is what happened and this is how I responded. Then you express your feelings and opinions about the situation. So you're not assuming the other person knows how you feel. So like this is what happened, this is how I reacted, and this is how I felt in the situation. Then it's all about me. So it's all about me. Then you assert yourself by asking for what you want or saying no clearly. So don't assume the other person will figure out what you want. You got to remember that others can't read your mind. So, okay, this is what happened. This is how I felt. And this is what happened. This is how I felt. And this is what I don't want to have happen again. Then you finish it by reinforcing. So you reward the other person ahead of time, so to speak. So by explaining the positive effect of getting what you want or need. So if necessary, you also have to clarify the negative consequences of not getting what you want or need. So, okay, this is what I did. This is what happened. This is how I felt. This is what I want and what I need. And the reason I need this is because it's so important to our relationship, or I don't want to see this go down another path or whatever it is. Like you explain what the concern is. And I got to tell you, like when I do this, like with Brian, like it works every time because it's taking away the blame And I realize like I don't do it enough. Like I should do, it's one of those like where
you're like, oh my God, I gotta go do it right now. Hold on, there's like 10 things that I gotta dear him about.
But no, I even taught him because I'm like, babe, like I know that there's things that you need to tell me, so like do it this way. So it's so
what was the D, the E, the A, the R again? D
describe.
Is
E is express.
Okay.
A is assert. And R is reinforce.
Okay.
Now, what's really fascinating is that I can remember the describe, express, and reinforce. The assert is what I have a hard time with. Remember, like last time we were talking about how I have a hard time just like vocalizing.
Yeah, and so I have a hard time not vocalizing.
Yeah. So like, but like maybe expressing your feelings might be like if you have her come do one of these and like you can't remember the letter or you can't remember one of the steps, that's the step that probably you have a hard time with. Because I always forget the assert. I'm like, what's the A again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have to assert myself.
Oh
but
my God.
it takes it back onto you because like I know for me like that's one thing I think that you and I really kind of started jiving with when it was like, hey, this is a me issue and I need to tell you what's going on. Yeah. Right. Like, and I still struggle with this, and I need to like, it's so hard. Cause I'm just thinking about like all the sound stuff. Like, thank God you're like curious and kind to me. And, like I just didn't know how to say what's going on. But like, yeah, I just need to describe it, express it, assert it, and then reinforce it.
Oh my gosh, we totally need a little like reminder of this. So maybe you can draw us something or
okay. Describe, express, assert, and reinforce. Yeah. Describe it. Okay, sorry. Continue. Such an idiot.
Well, I'm really
this
curious.
Is exactly what happens when we
I'm curious if anyone else has any kind of feelings about how they know. First of all, do they identify with the house and yard? We haven't even got to the fence. Next time's the fence, but analogy. And then if maybe like their strategies they have. I'm curious about this because this is something that I know she says that ADHD people have a harder time with, but honestly, I just don't know that many people. I do know people who have good boundaries, and anytime I know somebody who has good boundaries, I'm like one of those people who like, I don't like shoes particularly. I'm not going to like go be a clothes I'm not like envying anything that somebody physically has, but I'm like, dang, I envy her boundaries, man. That is so cool. Like, because I think it's like super cool. I mean, when I see somebody who has that talent, that skill, maybe it's not a talent, but that skill, I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? Because that looks good on people. Yeah. I think, I think it's like a really cool quality that I'm like, oh, and because I feel so safe with them. When I'm like, oh, and they're saying, no, I can't go do that right now. I'm like, what? Right. Oh,
that's
yeah.
Amazing.
Because one could decide not to do something if they want it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's fun.
It's amazing. Yeah. I definitely struggle with the house yard scenario situation.
Yeah.
It has not integrated into me yet, but the colors didn't really either. And the colors still kind of do, kind of don't, but like I at least understand it. I don't fully understand this one yet. And maybe that's okay. And we'll get there.
I think also to her point in the chapter was like, this takes time.
Yeah.
Like if you've never really established boundaries, this takes time. And I think you've gotten really good at establishing boundaries with certain types of people.
Yeah.
Like there's like, it's like, oh, I know who this person is. I know what this, I know what this feels like. I've got like, you're good at the feeling part of it. You know who gets in and who doesn't. And I mean, you had a very good friend that you really had to put a hard boundary on. They physically, like weren't allowed to come to your house because they were struggling with some things that wasn't healthy for you to be around. Right. So I think, you have done that and I have done that to some degree, but it's hard. I think for both of us growing up in a situation where we didn't have a lot of boundaries, as kids, it's makes it tougher to even understand what this analogy is trying to say.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I'm sort of having a sensation about or a thought about is I don't think I let anybody into my house. Like, I don't even think I let myself really into my house. And I think that, like, I think I just started. Like, it's because I feel like maybe that's the idea of, like, if you love yourself, you're showing people the love that you have for yourself. And I don't even know if that's something that I still, like, even just now, like, I got super embarrassed and was like, you know, playing with like my little, what are these agates or whatever, gaglets, whatever they are, like for the, you know, and I was like, I got super, like, I turned into my 4-year-old self for a moment. And just to like own my silliness and own my brain. And like, that's something that we've been kind of working through, is like, just to kind of own all of that. Until I own it, I can't really invite anybody into it.
Okay, this is interesting. I skipped this part, but I didn't know why. But now I think I know why.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't sure where you were with this, and I was having a boundary for you. But I want you to look in, I think it's in the second column of what I wrote. It's to the left of the yard. It's what she says.
Okay.
In this, they describe, one of her clients describes their house as like a haunted house. They said, if you look at where it says like shame collector.
Okay.
And these ghosts were hoarder. Like, yeah. And there was these ghosts everywhere in her house, her internal house. And they constantly were whispering these lies about her. And why did you go and ruin everything? And you're a hopeless loser and all of this. And that, of course, you're not going to let anybody into your haunted house, right? If that's true.
Yeah. And
so she said the client said once she started to hear the judgy words in her house, she knew she had to get them out. And so she asked her how she got rid of them. And I love this quote, so I put it here, but she says, like, the client's like, well, I'm from the Midwest and we're really polite people. So I respectfully asked those ghosts to leave. And then they came back sometimes, and I asked them politely to leave again. I was like, oh my God, I love this client, like, so cute, right? But this idea that maybe that we have to be so gentle with ourselves that, like, we're not really letting people into the house because we're not ready for people to be there yet. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right. Like that you might get there at some point, but that isn't something like you don't have to be ready. And maybe some people get into certain rooms of the house, but not all of them. Like there's these closets that we kind of keep, you know, all the mess in, and we just kind of shut that part off. And we don't let everyone see that piece necessarily. I don't know.
Did I ever tell you that in high school, I used to pride myself on the fact that I could make people think that I was being emotionally open?
Yes.
And that I actually wasn't?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I remember you telling me at one point, and I remember thinking, like, that's part of what makes you such a good actor. Right? Is you practice that for so long. But that's a hard one to stop, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's what, like, this journey has been for, like, the last year and a half, has really been about, like, learning about my house and, I don't know, just even exploring my own house. Cause, like, I didn't even want to, like, I think the thing is, like, I had a house and it was, like, not even, it wasn't where I was living. Like, I was living in my car, you know? Like, I didn't even want to be in the same, like, I was, like, in a different state. I don't even know. Like, I just was avoiding it to every extent possible because I just disliked it so much. And I was like, this is the thing that makes me horrible. Like, this is the thing that if I could just, like, demolish this house, then I would be so much better off. So to like have to go back and like look at the house and be like, we talk about like having the manual for your brain.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, having to go and do like that inspection, that walkthrough of this new house or this old house that you have, and like having to like figure out, where like what's the breaker system, and like, what's the like all these things you have to figure out when you buy a house. And I think from that point of view, like right now, I think like everybody in my life is sort of in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just drawn the curtains. Like I just went in and like, okay, I kind of like cleaned out some of the cobwebs and tidied up.
You have like a really
myself.
Great grill and pool and place for people to hang.
Yeah.
Outside.
Like my patio is banging.
I'm
so like fun. Next to the ocean and we're all enjoying the breeze. But like my house is dark and cobwebby and like when I'm at least right now, like the visual is in my mind right now. It's like my yard is like super spectacular and like shiny. And then inside it's like this, kind of darker place. And yeah, I don't even let myself in. So it's like, can I just at least turn on the light? Can I just like see if I can invite a cleaner to come in and help me clean it out? You know what I mean? Like, if there's an issue. Yeah. Oh, because like that. Yeah. I mean,
like even just telling your therapist, right, about stuff sometimes is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're saying this, I'm like feeling the most like deep compassion for you at the moment. And I was wanting to know if you could try to read some of my handwriting out loud for a minute. Because I think what she says, and it's probably also partly why like I talked about the yard first, I think, instinctually. But if you look at where it says like emotional home.
Yeah.
Can you read those 2 starred things that she says in her book?
Be compassionate with yourself as you start to manage your home. It is counterproductive to expect perfection, to blast yourself for not keeping all of your boundaries firm. When you struggle with areas of your home, be gentle with yourself. Being too harsh or unrealistic leads to more shame, more helplessness, and giving up. Explore the reasons for the clutter being there. Explore the reasons for the clutter being there in the first place, and then clean the best you can. Adjust your boundaries so that you don't pick up more unwantedness.
Unwanted mess. Yeah.
Unwanted mess.
And so the word, though, that I wanted to go back was like leads to more shame and more hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different than helplessness, right? Because I think as kids, we maybe, we couldn't do things, right? But now as we're getting in our adult worlds, like we can get help for things. We can get support. And I liked a little bit of what she said. I don't know if it's exactly the words you would use, but I like the idea of being compassionate with ourselves. And this is like what I had to be when EMDR, like when I went through EMDR, this is what I had to do. And it was so, today, actually, I went for a massage and my massage therapist is like super groovy and awesome. And so part of what we do is like the physical massage work. But the other part, I swear, is just like, he's like allows for me to have sort of my connection to my body that is just very, very, very sweet and very kind. And I just had this visualization of like, I'm having trouble with my left shoulder. And I had this visualization of understanding that there was like all of this emotional stuff attached to my left shoulder. And I honestly don't have any like words for it, but I have feelings for it. Right. And so I had to I was in the process of sort of like letting that go during the massage session. And it was the tears were coming out of my eyes, and the difference is that I wasn't ashamed that I was crying. And I think that's new for me. But this idea that being compassionate of finding like that there's still, even though I did all this work for 2 years and I feel like oh my God, I looked at every closet, everything in my house, and I figured out where everything was. And like, nope, there's this like place I didn't even know existed that I had to kind of go back and look at and figure out, how to feel my way through that in a way. But I like the idea of like being super compassionate with ourselves as we're like starting that process.
Well, and that's ties it all back to what we first started talking about, is that it's not going to all make sense right away. And to be compassionate, like that you doesn't necessarily land in your physical body yet. And it's interesting because like the next thing that on your notes, it says before moving on. But when I first read it, I thought I read before moving in to your house, you know, like I was thinking, gosh, like, yeah, I've spent all this time like living outside of my house, and now it's time to kind of move in.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. Next week, we're diving into fences, what they mean in Your Brain Is Not Broken, and how they help us create emotional safety without shutting people out. Make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss it. But until then, here is to a great end of the week, and remember to stay curious.
And joyful.
Radical acceptance. High kick.